Warning: the contents of this review may contain images that some people may find disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. Corpse Party 2 Dead Patient has had a most unusual development history. But before we get started though, I will be discussing the ending of Corpse Party Blood Drive, so if you don't want to be spoiled by that game's plot or ending, then you're probably best to leave now. If you're cool with spoilers, or if you're familiar with how things in Blood Drive went down, then by all means feel free to stick around. So where do we begin? As I mentioned in the review for Corpse Party Blood Drive, Corpse Party 2 Dead Patient was released before it. This of course proved a minor complication surrounding a character from Blood Drive, especially in that game's ending. The game was also updated to a new engine after the release of Blood Drive and was re-released in Japan as, and I apologise if I get the pronunciation wrong, Corpse Party 2 Dead Patient Noise. This is the version that ultimately got localised in the West and had amended the issue that was raised in Blood Drive. Unlike the previous Corpse Party games, Corpse Party 2 was developed and published in Japan initially by Grindhouse, who were made up of members of Team Grizgriz, the folks who had worked on the original PC 98 game. Team Grizgriz originated as a doujin group, which also explains why the production value of this game isn't as up to speed when compared to the other entries in the Corpse Party series. As of October 2020, the game has had only one chapter and one EX chapter released, with the members of Team Grizgriz working on other things. Last confirmation was back in 2018, and given the release record of Blood Covered, not to be confused with the updated Repeated Fear, it doesn't seem unusual that there's been no word on progress, and this review will be based on what is in the game so far. Taking place 5 years after Ayumi Shinozaki takes care of Nirvana in the events of Corpse Party Blood Drive, Corpse Party 2 Dead Patient changes up the setting from an abandoned school to a locked down hospital. The game introduces us to a new main character, Ayame Ito, who wakes up on an operating table suffering from amnesia. As Ayame makes her way around the hospital, she starts noticing that things aren't as they seem, as the hospital is in disarray, and she soon discovers that she isn't alone in the hospital. Ayame must piece together why she was in the hospital in the first place and what's going on while other forces are at play. I really do appreciate, and this is more speculation on my part, that the mystery surrounding the hospital was hinted right back in Corpse Party Blood Covered Repeated Fear. Corpse Party 2 introduced the stamina and hiding mechanics that were refined and added to Blood Drive, as well as a simplified version of the flashlight. But other than that, is the game any good? Find out in The Good. Corpse Party 2's gameplay I found was quite interesting. A lot of it was adopted by Blood Drive, but there were some standout things I liked about it. The game features a couple of battle sequences where I had to interact with things to beat monsters, and I really liked the revised inventory system. You can open up the inventory in order to access items and then use them. Interacting with the environment if you don't have the right item selected will be treated the same way as if you didn't have the item to begin with. You can also move certain items in the hospital around, which makes it quite handy, especially if you're wanting to get all the collectible hospital charts, which details the patients in the hospital as well as what they're in for. The game I also feel makes better use of darker environments than the other entries in the series, as I did find myself attacked by enemies in places where I couldn't see them, making dark areas a little more dangerous and punishing me for letting my guard down. The game also has a bad ending, and without spoiling too much, I did like how the game handled this by making the situation futile for me. The game also doesn't implement the use of binaural audio, which has been a staple of the last 4 entries in the series, though I put that down to the publisher being Grindhouse/Team Grizgriz. It also, at the time of this review, has one EX chapter featuring a familiar face from the series, so I do like the nod to the earlier characters, and here's hoping we see what happens to the other survivors of Heavenly Host and how they're coping with things. Aside from that, that's all I have for the good, so let's take a look at what suffered in the bad. There isn't a lot of bad I can say about the game just yet because I just don't know enough about it. Yes, I'm aware that the game is meant to be episodic, and the fact that we know nothing of the game's plot outside of drama CDs, which you need to understand Japanese for anyway, doesn't help. I do miss the collectibles from the old game in which you collected name tags from corpses, also detailing you on how they died. But in this game it's just patient records, and I just don't feel the same connection I had when playing the other games. They could have used the approach of getting patient IDs or charts from corpses detailing how they died as well as what they were in for, and here's hoping that we might see further EX chapters featuring some of those patients so we have more of a connection with them, instead of just being another set of collectibles to keep an eye out for. At this point though, I'm grasping for straws, so let's wrap things up with the opinion. From what I've played of Corpse Party 2 Dead Patient, I think it's pretty good. The gameplay was its standout feature, and the only thing I can really say I didn't like about the game was that I found that the collectible patient records a little boring. For an incomplete story, I thought this was handled pretty good, and I'm interested to see what happens next. As I mentioned before, at the time of this review, there's been no word on progress since 2018, and whether you choose to believe that the game has been dropped or not is entirely up to you. Personally, I'm optimistic that the game will eventually be finished, but when? Only time can tell. If you like Corpse Party as a series or anime horrors, then this is right up your alley. So with that, it's time for my rating. I would give Corpse Party 2 Dead Patient an MRI machine out of 10. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next Infinite Backlog review. If you enjoyed today's review, feel free to check out some of our other videos and subscribe for more. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram and our Facebook page. Once again, thank you for watching.